What makes 9 experienced hikers vanish in the dead of night, leaving behind a scene so chilling it defies logic? Imagine people you trust, your closest friends, found scattered across the snow, half-dressed, barefoot, and frozen in unnatural positions. This is not folklore. This is one of history's most disturbing true events. And the hidden truth still haunts investigators to this day. This is the Dyatlov Pass Incident, a case so unsolved, so terrifying, it has become an obsession for criminal minds, forensic experts, and psychological researchers worldwide. The evidence is real. The fear is undeniable. On February 2nd, 1959, 9 young hikers set out into the frozen Ural Mountains of Soviet Russia. Their leader was Igor Dyatlov, a skilled 23-year-old engineer and outdoorsman. They carried maps, journals, and even cameras, providing us rare real footage of their final journey. But within days, their adventure turned into a nightmare. Search teams later found the hikers' abandoned tent, slashed open from the inside. Their belongings, including warm clothes, boots, and food, were left untouched. It was as if they fled into the snow in blind terror. The disturbing evidence only grew darker. Some bodies were discovered nearly naked, their skin burned or strangely discolored. Others showed signs of blunt force trauma, so severe it resembled a car crash. Yet there were no footprints of an attacker, only their own tracks, vanishing into the white abyss. Why would trained mountaineers, familiar with extreme weather, make such reckless decisions? Investigators struggled to understand the psychological breaking point that could drive them to rip their way out of safety and into deadly cold. Nothing fit. Nothing made sense. Autopsies revealed horrifying injuries. 2 victims had fractured skulls. Another had broken ribs, so violent they pierced her heart. One was missing her eyes. Another, her tongue. The details sounded like a crime scene out of Nightmare, but no criminal was ever found. Forensic experts called it impossible. No avalanche signs. No enemy tracks. No proof of human violence. Yet the hikers' bodies told a story of agony, terror, and a desperate fight for survival. The Soviet authorities sealed the case with chilling vagueness, citing a compelling natural force as the cause of death. But to families, researchers, and truth seekers, this explanation only deepened the disturbing mystery. Something was being hidden, something psychological, or something far worse. And then came the discovery that shocked even hardened investigators. Igor Dyatlov himself, the group's leader, was found lying face up in the snow. His frozen expression wasn't one of peace, but of unexplainable terror. What did he see that night, and why was it enough to drive them all into chaos? The searchers could not believe what they were seeing. The group's tent, their only lifeline against the brutal cold, was left standing in perfect condition, except for the slashes cut from inside. Why would anyone destroy their own shelter in sub-zero temperatures? Investigators followed the trail of barefoot footprints leading away from the tent. They stretched into the darkness of the forest, as though the hikers had fled in a single frantic rush. But the prints stopped abruptly, swallowed by snow, leaving no explanation for what came next. 2 bodies were discovered first, lying near a cedar tree, stripped down to only underwear. Their hands were raw, skin torn, as if they had desperately clawed at the bark. Nearby, the search party found remnants of a fire, small, weak, and barely enough to keep them alive. 3 more bodies, including Dyatlov's, were found halfway between the tree and the tent. Their positions suggested they were trying to crawl back to safety. Each was frozen mid-motion, as though paralyzed by something unseen. The last 4 hikers remained missing for weeks. When finally uncovered in May, buried beneath the snow, their condition horrified investigators. They were better dressed, as if they had taken clothing from their fallen friends, but their injuries defied explanation. One had her chest crushed inward, bones shattered with a force only comparable to a speeding car collision. Another skull was fractured beyond repair. And in the most shocking discovery, a young woman's body was missing both eyes and her tongue. The snow beneath her stained a dark, frozen red. The psychological toll on investigators was undeniable. How could 9 healthy, intelligent mountaineers descend into such chaos? Why did some die of hypothermia, while others bore injuries no natural disaster could explain? It was a puzzle that gnawed at the criminal mind. Forensic evidence provided no clarity. Radiation traces were found on some of the hikers' clothing, sparking whispers of secret Soviet weapons testing. Yet no official explanation was ever provided. Instead, files were quickly classified, locked away from public view. Families of the victims demanded answers, but Soviet authorities silenced discussion, insisting the tragedy was the result of natural forces. No details, no closure, just a chilling silence that left loved ones with more questions than answers. Still, behind closed doors, investigators admitted the truth. They could not explain what happened on that frozen mountainside. Every piece of evidence contradicted the last, and the deeper they searched, the more disturbing the Dyatlov Pass incident became. Over the years, countless theories have tried to explain the Dyatlov mystery. Some blamed an avalanche. Others suggested animal attacks. But the evidence doesn't fit. No avalanche debris, no predator tracks, and injuries too severe to be explained by snow alone. Others pointed to human involvement. Could the hikers have stumbled upon a secret military operation? Radiation found on their clothing hinted at nuclear testing. If true, it would explain the secrecy, the cover-ups, and the Soviet Union's reluctance to release details. But if it was military, why leave the bodies? Why not erase all evidence completely? The sloppy mix of trauma, hypothermia, and strange environmental clues feels more chaotic than a clean execution. It suggests panic, not planning. Then came the theory of infrasound, a low-frequency vibration caused by mountain winds. Scientists argue it can induce panic, hallucinations, and psychological breakdowns. Could the hikers have been driven mad by a sound they couldn't hear, but their minds couldn't escape? Psychological breakdowns, however, don't explain crushed ribs or missing eyes. The injuries scream violence, but the question remains, violence from what? There were no attackers, no weapons, no signs of struggle that fit conventional logic. Journal entries from the hikers add to the chilling confusion. Their last entries seem calm, even optimistic, describing camp routines and laughter. There is no sign of fear, no hint of what was about to unfold. Whatever happened, it struck suddenly and without warning. Cameras recovered from the site contained eerie photographs. Some were casual, smiling faces, snowy landscapes. But the final shots showed strange lights in the sky, bright orbs captured on film hovering above the Ural Mountains. To this day, no one has explained them. Some suggest the lights were Soviet rockets. Others whisper of secret weapons experiments gone wrong. But for the families, these blurry photographs became haunting proof that their loved ones saw something terrifying before they died. In 2019, 60 years after the tragedy, Russian authorities reopened the case. But instead of answers, they offered only one explanation: an avalanche. It was the same theory dismissed by experts decades earlier. To researchers, it felt like history repeating itself, another cover-up. And so the Dyatlov Pass incident remains an unsolved true crime wrapped in layers of fear, secrecy, and speculation. Each theory collapses under its own weight. Each answer spawns more disturbing questions. And the truth, buried beneath snow and silence, refuses to surface. The case has become more than just a mystery. It is a mirror reflecting human fear of the unknown. Every investigator, every journalist, every curious mind finds themselves trapped in the same maze of contradictions. The Dyatlov Pass incident doesn't just resist explanation, it mocks it. Skeptics argue that hypothermia and disorientation alone could explain the hikers' strange behavior. The so-called paradoxical undressing phenomenon makes victims of freezing temperatures strip their clothes in confusion. But this cannot explain fractured skulls, crushed chests, and missing organs. Others point to katabatic winds, violent gusts capable of knocking people off their feet. Scientists revisited the idea in modern times, try to fit it into the puzzle. But again, the theory fails to explain the brutality of the injuries. The families of the 9 hikers never accepted official statements. For decades, they pushed for truth, filing petitions, demanding reinvestigations. Each time, their efforts ended in silence, or vague conclusions that left the wounds of grief unhealed. What remains are fragments. A frozen tent, slashed open from within. Footprints leading into darkness. Bodies scattered, broken, and mutilated. In a silence in the snow, so heavy it feels almost alive. Forensic experts describe the scene as if the hikers were running from something no human should ever see. Not an enemy, not a predator, but something far more disturbing. Sheer, uncontrollable terror. The Ural Mountains now carry a shadow, a stain of history that will never wash away. Locals still whisper about the place. Tourists hike there, some out of